AFR Talk. You're listening to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. Focal Point with Brian Fisher.
Hi, welcome back to this last segment of Focal Point on AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. The program is Focal Point Network AFR Talk. Number to call if you want to join our conversation is 888-589-8840. And Rob, if we can grab clip number 11 to start this segment, the one with Martin Luther King III. So this is Martin Luther King's son, Martin Luther King Jr.'s son, Martin Luther King III. And he's on with a black commentator on CNN who goes by the name of Touré, one name guy. And Touré is talking with him about the legacy of his father and what that would mean for cultural engagement. And he is just absolutely stunned by what Martin Luther King III says at the end of this statement. Now, remember, this is coming from somebody that's all about crossing the aisle, all about being open-minded. That's what he says, all about being tolerant, all about being diverse, all about having room for everybody in his world. And listen, he just gets completely stunned, stopped in his tracks, shocked by something Martin Luther King III says at the end of this exchange. Let's listen.
But when your father, when the year you were born, 1957, your father said that the Negro has been betrayed by both the Republican and the Democratic Party. Now, that was years before LBJ stepped forward with the Great Society and the Civil Rights bills that changed the relationship between black people and the two parties. But do you think today the modern Democratic Party does enough to earn the overwhelming support that it gets from black people? Is it taking black people for granted in a way?
I would have to say that the party does not do enough. And yes, the answer to that is yes. But again, it's our responsibility to hold any party accountable. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure we do that. I think we have to find a way to hold the parties accountable as well as, I don't think that we're not a monolithic people. So while I happen to be a Democrat, I think it's important for African Americans to be Republicans. I think it's important for African Americans to be independent. I'll say this I also think it's important to be engaged with the Tea Party.
Why would it be important for us to be engaged with the Tea Party?
Touré just stunned. I mean, shocked. Why would we want to do something like that? Well, maybe because we're tolerant people, like we say. Could that have something to do with that? Now, I want to play a couple of sound bites on the issue of Islam. Let's begin with Ralph Peters, clip number 5. The Democrats have manufactured this charge that the Republicans engage in this war on women, and we think it's exactly the other way around. I mean, if you look at people that are waging a war on women, it's the Democratic Party who is breaking up homes, who is separating women from their husbands and from the fathers of their children. It's liberals and their welfare programs. Who is it that is aborting half of the female population before they ever have a chance to draw their first breath? That would be liberals. Who are the ones that are protecting the practice of abortion, which damages the souls and bodies of women? It is liberals. So we believe the real war on women is being waged by liberals, but the meme out there and the populace is that it's the Republicans, it's conservatives doing this. But Ralph Peters says if you want to find a real war on women, I'll tell you where you can find it.
First of all, Brian, the American left and all the feminists have spent more energy defending a handful of terrorist thugs in Gitmo than they have spent over the years defending the rights of hundreds of millions of brutally oppressed women throughout the Islamic world. And now suddenly, it's the Beverly Hills Hotel and the Polo Lounge. And they're protesting that, even though, look, for years, these stars have been staying at the Fairmont, which is owned by Qataris and Saudis, staying at the Four Seasons. Hey, the Four Seasons is almost half owned by a Saudi. How are women's rights doing in Saudi Arabia right now? So my problem, essentially, Brian, is simply this. And let me tell your viewers something. I'm not a Republican. I am an independent, and on ethical John Stuart Mill grounds, I am pro-choice. But the notion that the left has created of this lie about Republican war on women, while they are ignoring the brutal treatment of women. You have Boko Haram, obviously. You have women being punished for being raped. You have genital mutilation. You have stoning to death, but also the daily slavery, the oppression, the lack of freedom. And the American left says nothing about it. And let me give you a classic example. Yesterday, in the New York Times, Nicholas Kristof, the columnist, whose heart is in the right place, but who's ethically challenged, he wrote a 900-word column about the importance of education for women. And every example he cited of deprivation was an Islamic country. And yet, never in that column does he use the word Islam or the word Muslims. You see the left contorting itself, not to say that Boko Haram is an Islamist organization attempting to impose Sharia law. Now, that doesn't mean all Muslims are bad, but it does mean that if you look honestly at the world, only in the Islamic world are women brutally oppressed, and do they suffer the deprivation of rights.
Absolutely.
And the American left says nothing.
So that's Ralph Peters getting pretty energized there about the real war on women is being waged in the name of Islam. You know, this Boko Haram group, they're an Islamic group. They've kidnapped 300 schoolgirls. They are selling them for $12 a pop, basically as sex slaves to Muslims to be child brides. In Saudi Arabia, a woman cannot even drive a car. You know, one of the you have honor killings in the Muslim world. If a woman is the subject of violent physical abuse, she is the one who will be put to death. She's the one because she has engaged in sexual behavior outside the bounds of marriage, even though it was against her will, even though it was forced on her. They punish her rather than the perpetrators. And so that's what he says. You look honestly at the world. It is only in the Islamic world that women are brutally oppressed. Only in the Islamic world do they suffer the deprivation of rights. And the American left, he says, doesn't complain, doesn't say anything about it. Now, clip 6 and 7, the clip 6 here features a girl who's 15. She is escaped from Nigeria. Boko Haram came to her house. She's going to describe what happened to her father, and then I'll tell you what happened after these people from Boko Haram confronted her father. I'll tell you what they did to her brother. She managed to escape. Her brother and her father tried repeatedly to get asylum visas in the United States and were denied. Let's listen.
At 7:30, 3 men knocked on our door, and then my brother opened the door for them, and they asked him, "Where is your dad?" He now told them that my dad is in the bathroom taking a shower. So they waited on my dad about 3 minutes. So they go ahead and drag him out of the bathroom. They said he's wasting their time because they don't have any other time to wait for him. So when they take him out of the bathroom, they told him that he should deny his faith. He now told them that he can't deny his faith. So they told him that they're going to kill him if he didn't deny his faith. But he told them that he should rather die than to go to hellfire. So he now told them that God said anyone that denied him, he's going to deny him too in the presence of his dad in heaven. So my dad refused to deny his faith, and then they shoot him 3 times in his chest.
So shot 3 times in the chest by Boko Haram, this Islamic group, because he would not deny his faith in Jesus Christ. And then WND.com has a story about her brother who was killed the same night, the same episode, by Boko Haram because they were concerned he would grow up to be a Christian and might grow up to be a Christian pastor like his father, so they shot him in the chest. Now here is Emmanuel Ogebi. He's an international human rights lawyer. This is clip number 7. He spoke at the same press conference where we just heard that young Christian girl. Her name is Deborah Peters. Just heard her talking about what she witnessed, Boko Haram, these Muslims coming to her home, killing her father because he would not renounce his faith, killing her brother because he might grow up to be a Christian. And here is what this international human rights lawyer, Emmanuel Ogebi, said, clip 7.
We faced a major wall of denial, not from the Soviets or the traditional establishment, but from the State Department. Deborah's story is one that we've known for a couple of years since we found her during a fact-finding mission. And I should point out that she was denied a visa twice by the U.S. government. And the reason she was denied a visa was they said to her, you can't make this stuff up. They said to her, you don't have family ties. And so they essentially re-traumatized a girl whose family was exterminated by terrorists just because she wanted to come to America for a terror survivors camp.
So, it's just bizarre. Muslims come, wipe out her entire family. Then she applies for asylum in the U.S. and they say, well, you can't come because you don't have any family. Re-traumatizing her again. Well, let's go to the phones. Let's go to Paul, Birmingham, Alabama. Paul, welcome to Focal Point. We can bring Paul on. Welcome. What's on your mind, Paul?
Well, several things. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I was going to talk about another subject you spoke on earlier, but the last thing you talked about, the whole Boko Haram thing, I heard every word you said, and most of that is it's pretty factual on the surface of it. But are you seriously implying, which obviously you're implying, is there's a cultural battle out there between Muslims and Christians worldwide, and Boko Haram is a perfect example of it, because your history is very, very, very minimal at all. You're not getting into what started Boko Haram down the path they're on to begin with. It had nothing to do with Islam. It had in fact to do with, I don't know if you know any Nigerians, but it had very
now, are you saying that they started in poverty? It didn't have anything to do with ideology. It was all poverty.
No, it was not all. No, it was not all poverty. Let me finish. I'll tell you what it was.
Well, I got about 5 seconds, Paul. What was it?
Violence perpetrated on them to begin with. If you would know this, if you know this already, why you don't share it with your audience?
Well, Paul, I'm sorry. I gave you the time I had. I'm all out of time. We are done for the day. Focal Point AFR Talk. Thanks for listening. We'll be right back here tomorrow. Stay with us.